time to find out what we're made of, what this team's going to look like. Had a good fall camp. I think the guys have worked really hard. We're relatively healthy. Still some bumps and bruises. We're trying to get healed up, but we're moving in the right direction. And it's going to be a huge test for us to start with. It's the environment's going to be chaotic. The team is built really, really well. Big, physical football team that we're going to have to match. What they do, how they do it, but also try our best to play to our strengths, which is speed and quickness and tempo of play, and hopefully find a way to make them uncomfortable. But looking forward to it. We got a lot to find out about our group, and we've done enough against each other to kind of have an idea, but also still a ton of questions, and there's really no way to know until you go play a good opponent. We're gonna get that opportunity on Saturday. It's gonna get here really quickly. I feel like our guys have prepared the right way. We're narrowing things down, trying to simplify to make it as easy as possible for them to just go out and react and play, and hopefully that'll be an edge if we can protect the ball and play physical up front on both sides. Who knows? I mean, we've given them a plan to win. That's the goal. Go win. Find a way. And we know that's a huge challenge against this particular opponent. So what questions do you have?
Coach Jason Walker with Cache Valley Daily. Just looking at some injuries, from fall camp, or what guys maybe still banged up or looking to come back for this week, like Sturzer, Switzer, and a couple others. How are they doing?
Yeah, Switz is back in playing every down at this point. Well, we held him, longer probably than he wanted to be held, but we wanted to be smart. He's had a good last week or so. Stirs is going to be probably another week or two at minimum with him. His is a little bit more significant. We did lose Amari Kiki for the season with the shoulder surgery. It's going to be needed. He was in the too deep, I think, when he went down, so we're going to do without him. But luckily, we've got guys back there in the back end that can be helpful. I think the guys that are just questionable, we're still waiting on. Is Halle ready to go? Is Brock Lane ready to go? Those are day-to-day conversations. If we played today, they wouldn't be, but they're both moving in the right direction and quite possibly could be ready to play on Saturday. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Otherwise, we're like everybody else. We're getting over some bumps and bruises from fall camp, but nothing that should linger all season.
Hey, Coach Al from KVNU, looking at the two deep that Doug put out today, it looks like the new players in the secondary are some of the real spots where they have really stepped up. Would you agree with that and go on a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that was necessary. We were thin back there to begin with through attrition and graduation and injury and all the above. We knew that was a place we had to make up some ground. Excuse me. Felt like that we targeted some twitchy, long, fast individuals, some of which have played, and they have immediately stepped in and helped us. Now, I think you're building off of Switz, Ike, and Mike Anwanyu. I mean, those three guys give you what we feel like are some veteran snaps, but there's a lot of bodies to choose from in the back end that can contribute. The ability to get into dime, get into nickel, played several different packages with guys on the field. We've been pleased with a lot of those guys. And at this point, who really settles in and makes the plays we need them to make in a live setting on game day. But we've seen sparks and flashes from a lot of them. Simeon Harris, Francois, Gate, Javar. I mean, there's a bunch of dudes out there, and we're much closer to having Jalen Martin available as well. We've been waiting on one transcript with a grade posted for him to get started too. So I feel like we're going to need all those guys as the season goes on.
Hey, Coach Patrick Mayhorn with the Ag Ship. I'll ask about another addition on the depth chart defensively. Paul Fitzgerald as a redshirt freshman listed as a starter. What has he done this offseason to sort of solidify himself there?
Well, just got consistently better. We knew he was twitchy. I thought he showed up some last year, just in our work, not so much on the field in a game, but when we went into the spring, you saw this kind of change in him. Physically, he's built the right way. He's getting more and more confidence, and we needed him to step up. And we're going to play a lot of guys at really all the positions defensively, and his is no different. But he has proven to be way more consistent and understands what we're asking him to do at a level I think last year as a freshman he just wasn't ready to do.
Coach Anderson, Jason Turner from the Herald Journal. I just wanted to ask you, were there any guys heading into fall camp that maybe you weren't, that ended up making the two deep that maybe were a little bit of a surprise to you, and what did they do to kind of solidify that for themselves?
You know, Joe would probably have to answer that question for you a little bit better defensively. I do think, though, I think Fitzgerald has been a surprise at how impactful he seems to have been. We kind of expected to get some veteran play out of Blaine Spires, even though he was out a little bit in the back end. Some of those DBs we just talked about, we knew that we needed him to come in and be helpful immediately. But I think you'd have to ask him a little bit more about that defensively. My eyes have kind of been focused on the other side. Offensively for us, I would say that going into fall camp, we didn't really know exactly what to expect from Maui at the interior spot, guard and center. He has made an impact. He's not necessarily a starter right now, but clearly in our top 8 and could go in at center or guard, and has been a guy that has been a spark, a bright spark for us. Razul Faison, we knew what we were going to get from Devon Booth. We knew what we would get from Robert Briggs. Razul has been a spark to give us kind of that 1, 2, 3 punch. And I think we've seen that wideout group really just kind of progress. We've seen Micah stand out. We knew he could. Colby Bowman. We've seen a couple plays at Arcellus. He just needs more reps. Kahanu Davis missed most of the spring, has had a really good fall camp. Feel like Otto Tia has had his best practices of his career already. So I feel like out there, that group has given us a lot more opportunities than maybe what we had previously.
Hey, Coach, Ajay Salveson, Aggie Sports Radio Network. This defense obviously ranked in the top 10 of the country for Iowa last year in a lot of major categories. They bring back a lot of that talent, including a couple of good defensive backs. What have you seen out of them defensively?
Well, as good as they are in the back end, and they are, there's no doubt. Just it starts up front. They're able to move the line of scrimmage back to the quarterback's lap. They rush the passer and really just dominate most fronts that they play against, and that's why they're able to keep the scores down like they do, create turnovers at a high number. So, I mean, it's a huge challenge for us up front to get bodies on them. Stay ahead of the chains is going to be critical. Getting the first down is going to be critical. You'd like to think that we can make them uncomfortable with the way we play, spread out, and playing at tempo, but you got to have some positive plays for those things to even matter. So, we're going to be tested, maybe the best defense we'll see all year. They're one of the best in the country for a reason. We don't exactly know who to expect to line up with the suspensions, and obviously they lost some key players to the NFL. You don't know what kind of injuries they're dealing with. But I know this, whoever they line up, it'll be a challenge, and we're going to have to go out and earn it and try to have efficient plays early in drives to create tempo to hopefully make them uncomfortable. I hope that's possible.
Hey, Coach, Eric Franson with 106.9 The Fan. And with that, I guess there's a cloud over Iowa with that suspension. There's also some concern about who's going to be even available at the quarterback position. Seems like there's a lot of uncertainty and a little bit of controversy surrounding Iowa. I mean, how does that affect you guys in your preparation for them with what you may be seeing on Saturday?
Really has very little to do with our prep. We're still figuring out who we are, a lot of unknowns, a lot of new bodies that haven't played a college game, especially not in the environment we're fixing to throw them into. So way more focused on us than we are them. We know they're going to be as big a test as we've seen. We know they're going to be well coached. The environment's going to be chaotic. Whatever quarterback they throw out, we got to defend. The offense is not going to change drastically because one or the other quarterback is playing. They've recruited some good transfers. We're expecting more speed than we've seen on film, but ultimately kind of their MO is who they are, and we've got to be better at defending it than they are running their offense. We got to be able to control their defensive front regardless of who they put out. Suspensions and all that really can't play much of a factor. It'd be a challenge regardless, and we just got to play our best football. That's really the goal. Play our best football. If we do, it gives us a chance to win. If we don't, it's going to be a long trip.
Andrew Hyde, KSL.com. How do you prepare your guys? A lot of inexperienced guys on the roster that haven't even played a game, like you've said. How do you prepare them to jump into something like Iowa, where you're playing one of the most chaotic environments in the country?
Try to simplify things and keep it in bite-sized pieces. We know we can't open the playbook wide open. We got to put them in positions where they at least have some confidence. Do the best we can to simplify in a way that these guys can go out and play and react. If they're thinking it's going to be a long day, they can't be thinking. They got to be able to play with confidence and really just react and run to the ball. So I think that works the same way on both sides. Offensively, try not to overload these guys. Do things that we know that we're familiar with, that we have confidence in, and then ultimately guys are going to have to make some plays. The environment's going to be crazy. There's no way to prepare for that. We're going to have to try to kind of ride that wave early, and hopefully can avoid the big mistake. And as guys settle in and settle down, and we get an idea of exactly what we're up against, hopefully we're in a position to make a game of it. You may not. You're not going to win the game in the first quarter, but you can definitely lose it. And so we just need to stay calm as best we can and organized and simple so we can play our best. It sounds simple and easy, much harder to do in practice because half this roster's not played a game here or definitely not played a game in this kind of environment. And we're going to see how we respond to it.
Patrick Mayhorn again. You've talked a lot this offseason about reducing turnovers. How are you feeling about that heading into the teeth of this defense?
Well, we've done a good job in practice, but we haven't played those guys yet either. And that's something they're really good at doing. So I love the fact that we have prepared the right way and we have controlled and protected the ball in practices, in scrimmages. 2 scrimmages without a turnover, that's live football. Really can count turnovers on one hand all fall camp. Spring was basically the same way. So we've prepared the right way. Now we got to go into a game against good bodies, a really well-built defense, and continue to practice those things. We got to be willing to throw the ball away. We got to be willing to dump the ball occasionally, secure the ball in traffic, and know that punting and kicking the ball is a good play. In a game like this, that's a win, not turning the ball over. Punting the ball, resetting the clock, and doing it again. We got to understand that's part of this. I hope we can do that. I think we've prepared the right way, but it's a completely different environment when you're out there playing against this style of defense and this caliber of defense.
Hey, Coach Al Lewis again from KVNU. What do you see from this first-team All-American guy, Jajong, back there in the secondary for them? What kind of player is he?
Speed and range. Just when you have size, length, twitch, man, it makes it tough. They put them in positions to be good at what they do as well. We can't overemphasize where he's at necessarily, but at the same time be aware when our matchups are clearly better in other places. But I just see a guy who can cover a lot of ground, tends to not be out of position, knows what they're doing. You can tell they know how they all fit together. Or very rarely is a guy out of position. Now, we may make a guy miss, a guy may make a play, but you don't see him out of position often. And when you've got that, that makes it really, really tough for us. And it still starts up front. They know they don't have to. They know they don't have to cover for a long, long time. The front's going to land. It's going to make it uncomfortable for a quarterback. And I think they're really good at being opportunistic. The front making a quarterback rush or push the ball in places they shouldn't, and the back end gets to the ball. They do a great job of getting to the ball.
Hey, Coach Eric Franson with 106.9 The Fan one more time. Week 0 kind of illustrated that these new clock rules have kind of reduced number of snaps and potentially how many opportunities you get in a game. What have you seen so far in that, and how's that changed anything with how you may be approaching the game?
Yeah, we kind of expected that. We felt like it was going to rob maybe a drive per half, 10 plays or so a game. So I don't know that it'll change the way we call plays necessarily, but we do need to be respectful of opportunities are going to be limited. You normally would go into this kind of game anyway, knowing that their MO is to run the clock down and shorten the game and play ball control. Football, your opportunities are going to be limited in this particular game with the clock and that style. It's going to be similar to playing a triple option team. You can't squander opportunities. Maybe instead of 14 drives, maybe you get 10 or 11. You got to be smart and be be very opportunistic, be very deliberate, I think intentional. The first down is really, really important. And I think we've tried to make that overly emphasized to our offensive players, man. Every yard counts. Moving the chains counts. You're just not going to get as many opportunities as you're used to.
Coach RJ Salveson again. How risky, I mean, with being on the road and such, when you're in the red area or at least on the plus side of the field, I know your special teams struggled in that last scrimmage, but how much are you going to be relying on your offense to be able to convert maybe a 4th and 3 or a 4th down and short if you're in that red area instead of relying on the special teams, or do you?
Well, I mean, I think that's what kind of success are you having moving the ball out in open field? Are you running the ball effectively? Or are you struggling to run the ball? I trust our guys can put the ball through the uprights. Is it a field goal game or is it go for it? We've got them backed up. How is our defense playing? Are we making a punt? You know, you're a lot more prone to go for it on 4th down when you know your defense can get the ball back. Calculated but aggressive has always kind of been our approach, but not careless. So a lot of those things we'll figure it out early in the game. I mean, how are we handling the fronts on both sides, and does our defense have are they having a day where they feel like they're dialed up and really making it difficult on them to move the ball? So we obviously analytics are involved, but we don't really know who we are yet. And we don't know who they are yet. We haven't seen a lot of ball yet. So some of these are going to be in-game decisions based off of just how our matchups look early in the process of the game.
Coach Jason Walker again, Cash Valley Daily. We talked a lot about Iowa's defense and the challenges it poses, but what have you seen out of the Iowa offense, and what the keys are when facing them?
Basically, really being able to match their physicality up front. They're going to bring the ball downhill, big running backs, multiple tight ends, fullback, H-back type guys, all of which can block and then catch the ball. They can be in any formation. A lot of eye candy. Very similar to what we've seen from Wyoming in the past. You've got to come downhill and be physical at the point of attack. That exposes you in the back end. And so defend the big shot, bottle up the run, make them uncomfortable. But that's a huge challenge. There's very few matchups across the front that are going to be in our favor, if any at all. So a lot of hats to the ball, tackle well, and make them snap it again. Hope that we can create some turnovers. We can get them off schedule, maybe benefit from some motion penalties and just early game mistakes, early season mistakes, and be opportunistic. But if you don't play physical ball, it's not going to matter. They're going to run it right down your throat and keep the clock running and keep us off the field. So it starts up front on both sides of the ball.
Coach Anderson, Jason Turner again. Iowa had 2 first-round draft picks in the latest draft, another second-rounder, another in the second round, another in the third. What does that say about the caliber of athlete that Coach Ferentz is recruiting and he and his staff's ability to develop players?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I don't think anybody that really pays attention to ball and the job he's done throughout his career, that shouldn't surprise you that you got that many NFL players. They coach really well. They got a great staff. A lot of those guys have been in place for a while. They're in an area where they can get solid players and develop them. So that doesn't surprise me. I would expect there's another handful of guys that are going to look just like that. They haven't played very much. They've just been waiting their opportunity, but really no surprise to me that they're producing those kind of players.
Coach Eric Franson, just one more time. I know you're talking about their offense, but it seems to be there's a bit of a mandate for them to score more points and be a little bit more up-tempo. Are you expecting to see something a little bit different out of Iowa than you've traditionally seen on the tape for Hawkeyes?
Isn't there a mandate everywhere in the country to score more points? I mean, isn't that just kind of the standing order, score more than you did before? They obviously brought in some transfers. The new quarterback, if he's healthy and playing, a lot of pressure on them, I get, to score more points. But ultimately, you play within the framework of what your team is built around. They're built around defense and special teams and an offense that doesn't turn it over, that plays physical ball and is opportunistic. So I don't think we're fixing to see some wholesale change. Now, you always anticipate game one that you could see a little bit of everything, but they kind of who are who they are. That's what they believe in. It's what's allowed them to be really, really successful. So, rally to what you can. We got to stop what we know they are about. Downhill, run the ball, play action pass, a lot of big bodies. If you don't stop that, none of the other stuff will matter. They won't even need it. We've got to make them uncomfortable, I think, before we see a lot of bells and whistles of an offense that obviously has been scrutinized, but they still won a lot of games. They're still top 25 regardless. I would say lean on your strengths, and I think that's what they typically do.